Arena. No? All right, so now we're going to go ahead and switch gears to talk a little bit about The Pulse, which, as I mentioned at the top of the episode, is the brand new Google Play game that's going to be coming out from Chris. So, I guess for starters, Chris, what is The Pulse?
Well, first of all, thanks for letting me just break up the party here to talk about it for a couple seconds. I appreciate it.
Yeah.
The Pulse, like you said, is coming out to Google Play at the end of this month, so in I would say about 3 or 4 weeks. And it's an interactive fiction game, so it's like a text-based choose-your-own-adventure game, and so much more. So just quickly, The Pulse is about a woman who wakes up in a strange motel. She's in a bathtub. She's submerged in water. She has no memory of how she got there or why she's there. There's things littered around the room, including like a military radio backpack that she eventually uses to send out a radio call. And of course, who does she get? She gets you, who plays the game. And so from there, you help her sort of navigate this her story and her mystery to try to discover who she is and what is going on in this mysterious town where there seems to be a pulse that's gone off and continues to go off and has affected it in some profound way. And we designed it in such a way where you'd start the game and you'd think, okay, I know what kind of story this is. This is like, we're in Silent Hill. There's something, like I've seen this before. But as you play, the genre begins to bend, and you get to a place that we hope you weren't expecting to go. And the thing that makes it interesting is it's choose your own adventure. So yes, you're making binary choices, but we've added in all these other features. So at the end of chapter 1, someone else, this isn't too much of a spoiler, but somebody else breaks on the call and basically says, we've been listening to what's been going on, and we have to tell you, don't trust this woman. She's not who she says she is. And we actually need you to work for us to do certain things. And so you end up torn between who to trust and what you should believe from both sides. And I think that's something that's going to make whoever wants to experience The Pulse have a more interesting experience than the old choose your own adventure books where you just kind of like made choices, right?
Yeah. And the thing I liked about it is, I love text-based games. Like the old text-based games were great. I also like the Telltale games. I feel like a little bit of that as well. There's those very story-based Telltale games that are no longer coming out because Telltale games just went under. But I also felt a little bit of other games like Oxenfree, if you've ever played that. Like sort of this dark narrative-driven game, that is also heavily built by choices. But of course, a more simple text-based version. But I think, based on what I've seen, you do a great job of sort of building an atmosphere with the way the text is, and you even have a playlist of songs, right?
Yeah, so I mean, it's text-based, but of course we wanted to build in things to augment the experience. So there is some graphical elements. There's music. There's a soundtrack. Of course, you can turn it off if you don't like listening to music when you're playing on your phone. But yeah, so there's a number of not everyone would be familiar with the sort of synthwave movement that has become more popular since Stranger Things was obviously a big part of helping kick off a lot of these artists. But there's some pretty well-known artists who were nice enough to contribute music to the game's official playlist and some of the soundtrack. So guys like Makeup and Vanity Set, who you should check out, and Ogre, and there's a synthwave band called Killstar, Crockett. They do a lot of sort of 80s revival stuff. So the game has kind of like a retro flavor as well, that I think people who like this kind of thing will dig.
Fox, you had a question?
Yeah, Chris, I'm really intrigued by this. I have to say, in general, I really like choose your own adventure games. And when I think about that genre, as Jammer already said, on one end of the scale, I think you have Telltale games, or had those, that, it was very linear storytelling. Yeah, you made little choices here or there, but the story pretty much, at the end of the day, ended the way it was going to end, even though if it took maybe different paths to get to the end. The opposite end of the spectrum, I would say, is something like Fallout, where there are enormous game-changing consequences for the player's actions in a hugely expansive universe. Where on that scale do you place The Pulse? How much does the game change, or the goal or outcome or ending change based upon your choices?
Um, Yeah, well, that's the hardest part of these games, and you really struck something. And we knew going in that the thing that drives people crazy who play these games are they want to feel like the choices they're making have real impact, and they hate it when
Hmm.
they hate it when the games feel like they're just running on rails, and the choices are incidental. Like they might matter in the moment, but they really don't matter for the outcome. And
Exactly.
exactly, and I'm sure I wouldn't be the only one who's worked on one of these games to say that yeah, the scope creep on every choice branching off to its own totally unique narrative is so large that you would just never finish the game. Some choices, I would say it's a balance between sending the character on different journeys, but also you have to add uh, you have to add elements to the story, like which we call variables, I suppose, like we that can change big things in the game, but not necessarily send the player on a totally new narrative. So, like I said, you could end up playing with a character that you don't expect, playing on a side you don't expect, based on the choices. You can, trying to figure out a way to have the character unclear of what choices they should be making and what moral line they should be crossing. So building in those features and also trying to send the player on various narrative paths is kind of the balance we hope that we've struck. But there are different endings, but having every choice go to a different ending is very challenging. I'll just say
Sure,
that.
of course.
I'll just
Yeah, no,
say
that
that.
makes sense.
It sounds like a non-answer, but there are surprises in the pulse that I think people will be satisfied with, and there are lots of different endings.
Awesome. Thank you. No, totally
Is what
answers
I'll
my
say.
question.
So, how long is the game? And I'm curious. How long is the game, and how long is, I guess, the script of the game compared to maybe like
A book.
a book or even a screenplay? I guess it's hard. Like, yeah, between those two, I guess.
Okay, so to put it in perspective, a novel is like a sort of average novel is considered 100,000 words or more. Um, some YA novels are more like 80,000 words, but like let's say a novel is usually about 100,000 words. The Pulse is well over 100,000 words, so it's as dense as a novel, and it took a lot longer to write than a screenplay, just because of the branching narrative.
Yeah.
Like a screenplay, which I've wrote many of, is you make a single choice and basically move on to the next scene. In this, you're writing multiple scenes, so you're exploring all the various outcomes, or at least two various outcomes that might happen in each scene. So I would say it's maybe triple the length of a screenplay.
Okay.
Like it would be like maybe experiencing 3 movies worth of content, or let's say an entire novel.
Yeah, that makes sense. Yeah. Any questions you guys have, either Fox or Nick, about the game?
Well, I just have like kind of I don't know if you've seen this. It's not really choose your own thing, but it was really interesting. If you say, I'm not going to say aloud in case it'll set off someone's device, but if you say GOOGLE, I want to talk to Dustin from Stranger Things, it'll begin kind of a game where it's like, hey, this is like Dustin, I'm on the radio, like, what's up? But you actually just answer trivia questions and it just progresses forward. But would you ever think about that for like a future project, or is like that a lot more difficult to pick up like human voice and know what I'm saying as an answer? And
well, I'll say this: we started this company, StoryFix Media, which people can follow on Twitter at StoryFix Media, specifically to experiment in the interactive fiction space. So, I mean, that sounds rad. That would be something that we would definitely want to look into. The next game we're planning is a time looping game. So it's it's not a concept that's totally unique. We've seen it with like source code or Groundhog Day or whatever. But we're going to try to do something in the interactive fiction space, and maybe not rely on the sort of tech space quite as much. So something like that might be really interesting, where you have to kind of replay something again and again to move forward in the game. But are you referring to, there was something that came out like a couple of days ago where there was a hidden interactive fiction game in Google Is it that you're talking about, or is this something that was came out a while ago?
This is something that has been out since season 2 of Stranger Things, because it basically follows.
Oh, okay.
Basically, you progress forward, and it's almost exactly the same as the dialogue from the show. Only Lucas will be like, "Why are you bringing this other kid in on it?" or whatever, and he just literally asks you trivia questions from the show to move on. Like, what was that arcade we always go to, or what should I feed D'Artagnan or Dart or whatever? And you're like, nougat, and he's like, nougat, that's a great idea. Like.
That's fucking weird. I didn't know that existed. I have a Google.
You can play it for hours.
Yeah.
That's interesting. The Stranger. It's funny you bring up Stranger Things, because when I was watching season 2, they were always talking on these walkie-talkies, like the old analog walkie-talkies. Mm-hmm. And I thought, oh, wouldn't that be interesting to do an interactive fiction game where you can't progress unless another player that you're playing with, and not in the room, but like that you're connected to on your mobile devices, has to agree on the choices you make. So like, let's say I download the app and I say, Jammer, you got to download this app because I want to play with you. And you have to have 2 people. Mm-hmm. And then we're both kind of playing it, and you have to make choices together. Like, let's say it takes place in the 80s and we're on a walkie-talkie or something. And it's like, in order to help this character or whoever, whatever the story is, I don't know what it is, more than one person has to agree on the choice. I thought that might be kind of a neat idea.
That would be kind of cool. Set people up against each other.
And the walkie-talkie thing is exactly what they play off. Like, that's how they sell it. Where it's someone's hacked into our channel, and like, every time Dustin's like over and out or whatever,
That's so weird. I need to find that game.
All you have to do is go on Google. All you have to do is say, Google, I want to talk to Dustin from Stranger Things.
That's
and
weird.
It starts.
Any plans to bring this to iPhone at all, or is Google Play where it's at for you for now?
You know what? It's unfortunate. Our plan was to have it for both. And then we ran into some development issues, but I think, if the game does as well as we hope it will, then, I don't see any reason why we wouldn't maybe bring it to iOS in the future. It's kind of one of those things where we're balancing, like, do we want to spend the time doing the development we need to bring it to another platform, or do we want to move on and publish a new game? And we're sort of itching to do something else, I think. So, but we'll see how it does.
Cool.
Forgive my naivete, but did we mention, is there a release date for it, or even like release period?
Yes, it's coming at the end of October, so the end of this month. Awesome. So it's finished. We're just testing, and it's looking like it's ready to go. We just I don't have an exact date, unfortunately, but I think it would probably be like the last week of October. But people can go to thepulsegame.com to get a little more information on it. And again, I appreciate you guys having me on to talk about it.
Yeah. What else? Any last details you want to share before you head out?
No, I think that's it, man. It's been a pleasure to be here. I love talking Star Wars with you guys. Specifically, I'm a huge fan too, and I'd love to come back.
Yeah, we'd love to have you back on. Let me know if there's any news item that reaches them. Any news item that is God, I'm trying to say scratches your itch, but that's not right. That any news item that drops that you'd like to talk about. I guess I should get away from just trying to be fanciful with my language. Let me know, and maybe you can hop back on for a bit.
All right, sounds good. Okay, listen, guys, I'm going to bounce, but I appreciate it.
See ya.
Okay, bye.
Take care. Nice talking to you.
Yeah, you too.
All right, so moving on from the Pulse.
Now the dead weight is gone. No, I'm kidding. That was a really cool conversation. This game actually sounds really awesome.
Yeah, it does. It does. Honestly, one of the things that sold me was the playlist of the music. Because it had that sort of, the 80s synth music that he was talking about. And I'm like, between that and the synopsis and sort of the images and the trailer, I'm like, okay, I get this game, and I really want to play it because it seems like a whole lot of fun. But anyway, I digress. Let's move on.